Hi everyone, I'm Mihoko for Hey Singapore.
And I'm Sean, hi. So today's video we thought we'd make about becoming PR. So anyone out there who's curious about it or thinking about it, hopefully some of the information here will be useful.
We became Singapore permanent resident about 20 years ago.
And why did we do it? Well, mainly it was for the security and the stability that it gives you if you are living in Singapore. And we can get into the details of that a bit later. So to start with, so what does it mean? So permanent resident, it basically means as a PR you have the right and the status to live and work in Singapore for a long period. So there are several categories of people who can apply for PR, but the main ones are if you're a holder of an employment pass or S-Pass, if you are the spouse of a Singapore citizen or a PR, if you're a student studying in Singapore you can apply, and there's also a category for foreign investor. So if you invest a lot of money, you can apply for the permanent residency.
Applying for PR costs you $100 per applicant.
Yeah, and there's quite a lot of documents that you need to submit when you apply. And be warned, it can take quite a long time. It can take up to 6 months or even more. Some people might wait a year before the final decision.
For the details of applying for PR is in the government's website. I put the link in the description, so check it out.
So why become a permanent resident? What can you do and what can't you do? So we'll look at a few categories. The first one is about travel. If you're a PR, it's a lot easier to go out and back into Singapore. You have a re-entry permit, which you just need to renew every 5 years.
So if you're living and working in Singapore, usually re-entry permit is renewed every 5 years. But if you're not living in Singapore anymore, you moved out of Singapore and you went back to your own country, you can still renew your re-entry permit, but sometimes the lengths you are given would be a lot shorter, can be like 1 year. So now, during COVID time, PR doesn't need to get the government's approval to come back into Singapore, but if you're like on other like long-term like work visas, you need to get government's approval to get back into Singapore.
So the second category is CPF. So what is it? It's a Central Provident Fund, which is basically a social security program that's funded by contributions from both employers and employees.
So if you're PR, the portion of your salary will go into CPF, and employer also needs to contribute to your CPF. If you're PR, your employer needs to contribute max 17% of your salary, which is capped at $6,000. So no matter how many millions or billions of dollars you are making, the monthly capping is $6,000. When you first become PR, first year and second year's contribution is less than the full amount. So on the third year onwards, you will have a full contribution from your company.
And at the same time, you as the employee also contribute a portion of your salary, and that's up to 20%.
Yeah, 20% of $6,000. But the percentage of your contribution or employer's contribution vary depending on your age. So for details, check the government's website.
So as this money accumulates in your CPF fund, what can you actually use it for? There's certain categories that you can use it. The main ones being purchasing property in Singapore. There are certain approved investment funds that you can put the money into up to a certain limit. There's also money goes to medical care through a system called MediSave. You can use it for higher education. Eventually, as you get older, you can use it for your retirement.
So CPF is divided into 3 categories: ordinary account, special account, and MediSave. You can only use ordinary account to purchase property or for investment or other purposes. Special account is untouched until your retirement date. MediSave, you can use it for hospitalization, operations and things like that. CPF money is also used the insurance called MedShield. So MedShield is used for your hospitalizations or like special cares like operations. There is CPF tax relief, so you can save some tax on it.
So the third main category is about work and money. So a main advantage is that it allows you to work freely in Singapore. without having to get an employment pass or permit. The other thing, it just gives you that stability if you do lose your job or you need to move jobs. You don't need to leave Singapore immediately if you don't have that employment. So as PR, you have that security, but if you're on an employment pass, if you do lose your job, you will only have 30 days to be in Singapore before you need to leave the country.
Or find another job. You can also set up your own company. Recently, the regulation changed and a dependent pass holder cannot work anymore with a letter of consent. So becoming PR gives you more advantages.
So the fourth main category is housing.
So if you purchase a property in Singapore, you will need to pay stamp duty. And stamp duty everyone needs to pay, even Singaporeans need to pay. But on top, there is an additional buyer's stamp duty. If you're PR, you need to pay 5% of the property price as additional buyer's stamp duty. But if you are non-PR foreigner, you need to pay 20% of additional buyer's stamp duty. But foreigners who are not PR but from certain countries don't need to pay additional buyer's stamp duty, which are
Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, Switzerland, and the United States. Okay, the fifth category is education. So now if you have your children and they are PR and they're at school age, then if they are at a government-run school, then you will have lower school fees, and it can be quite a significant discount. So this is the government-run school, so it doesn't of course apply to international schools.
So PR children are given higher priority for admission to enter local schools than dependent pass holders.
Okay, the sixth category is health and medical. If you are PR, you will be charged a cheaper rate for admission to hospital than if you're non-PR.
At the moment, for COVID-related symptoms, PR only needs to pay $10 at GP.
So one thing to bear in mind is as a PR, if you're 21 and above, you're automatically part of a scheme called HOTA, which includes you it's an organ donation scheme. So if you die, your organs can be donated unless you apply to opt out of the scheme. So the final category is just a mix of all different facts to bear in mind about PR.
So renewal of PR is usually every 5 years. But as I mentioned before, if you're not living in Singapore anymore, then the 5 years can be shortened.
So one important thing is if you're PR and your son is PR, then second generation males in Singapore are all required to do national service, and they're registered at 16 and a half years of age, and it requires 2 years of national service after they've turned 18.
Our son also did national service. For the details of national service, you can check out the video. So if you're PR, you can sponsor your children, your parents, and your spouse LTVP, which is long-term visit pass.
Also, as a PR, you do have the opportunity to apply for citizenship if you do want to become a Singapore citizen, but bear in mind that dual citizenship is not allowed, so you would need to give up your other citizenship to become a Singapore citizen.
Small thing, PR doesn't need to renew your driving license until you reach 65 years old. And after that, you need to renew it every 3 years.
The last thing to bear in mind, again, maybe it's a small thing, but if you are a PR, as with Singapore citizens, if you go to the casinos here, you will have to pay an entry fee, which is $150 a day, or you can pay an annual pass of, I think, now $3,000, which, if you're lucky and you win a lot of money, it won't really matter. But
you start from minus, yeah?
But you start from negative when you walk into the casino. So hopefully that was a useful overview of what it means to become a PR. Of course, things do change, policies do get adjusted, so please do check the website to check the details.
When we look back, when we applied for PR, we could exempt our son from applying, but we've decided to make the family status the same as PR. And now our son has done national service and our daughter is working in Singapore. I think it was a good idea to become PR as a family. And obviously, people have different ways of thinking, So not everybody, is happy with their son going to NS and things like that. But overall, we're happy.
I think the pros overall outweigh any other factors. So I hope that was useful, and see you in the next video.
See you.
If you enjoyed this video, do give it a like down below and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this.